Tēnā koutou katoa, ngā mihi mahana kia koutou. Greetings everybody, and warm greetings in fact. We're going to open today with a karakia. Karakia tātou, tuia ki ringa, tuia ki raro, tuia ki roto, tuia ki waho, tuia tātou te tangata, ki te kaupapa o te hui nei, ki te kaupapa o te rangi nei, mauri ora kia tātou katoa. Bind above, bind below, bind within, bind beyond, bind us the people to the purpose of our meeting, to the purpose of the Stay and Breathe life, and to all of us. Some housekeeping. Do we have anybody on Zoom? We do. We have media on Zoom. Catherine's there, and not many other people, I don't think. And just to remind you that the meeting's been recorded. It'll be available on Council's YouTube channel. So what you say here might make a media article. I don't know how else to make that point. I'm not trying to. Sometimes people forget. They come along and forget that the media are here, and then something appears later. And toilets and fire exits are exits out here, and toilets out through the double doors and on the left. And a hearing assistance hardware is available in the public seating area if you need that. Apologies. We don't have any apologies that I'm aware of. I need somebody to. We don't need to move that then. So we'll go to the report. Draft public places bylaw submissions. And we've got a resolution there. That the Public Places Bylaw Panel receives the hearing report, receives and considers all 35 submissions, and declines to accept any late submissions received after the consultation period. Welcome, Kat. Is there anything that you'd want to add to your report?
No, nothing in particular further to add. In the report, I note that it says that we received no late submissions between 27th of August and 3rd of September at the time of writing. I'll just add to that we haven't had any further late ones since then.
Thanks. That's it. Is somebody happy to move the resolution? Councillor Kinnemont, second by Councillor Dyke. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. And we move now to the hearing of submissions. So all speakers have been allocated 5 minutes. We're going to have a ring of the bell from over here at 4 minutes, and then again at 5 minutes. And there'll be a little bit of time for panel members to ask clarifying questions if there's something you want clarified. And yeah, so in terms of our speakers, first we have Elizabeth. Welcome. You come up by one of these, yes, by the microphone, and do you know how to turn that on?
Apologise if I sound shaky, it's because I'm there.
Yeah. You press the wee button on there, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much for allowing me to speak today. I am Elizabeth Perrone. I represent CCS Disability Action Nelson, Marlborough branch, and Motueka, etc. So CCS Disability Action is the largest pan-disability group in New Zealand. Within your proposed public places bylaw, you have proposed that sandwich boards be placed against the curb. While this does help those with blind low vision and those needing extra room to access shop entrances, it is not entirely without its problems. Mobility parking requires a clear area for exiting the vehicle and allowance for wheelchairs. Sandwich boards falling into the road create hazards for the driver, and the proliferation of sandwich boards observed in other towns and cities points to bylaws that have not been enforced. I appreciate the efforts of those wanting to create an accessible environment in Richmond, Tasman. So you have seen a lot of development in recent years, including retirement villages. I'm sure that you know the increasing population of people over 65 in the Richmond area in particular, something to consider when making changes to bylaws. Tasman isn't the only area with a growing population over 65. By 2043, the Nelson population of over 65 will make up a third of the population. And Statistics New Zealand puts the percentage of over 65 having a disability at 59%, and physical limitations were the most common impairment. With such a large percentage of over 65s, which is continuing to grow, it is good to remember that even without disabilities, there are other factors to remember. As we age, we find mobility and agility affected. We find that we are unable to manoeuvre as easily around obstacles. A clear footpath gives confidence and encourages foot traffic. To create a township that is a destination requires confidence in access and removal of barriers. Foot traffic brings impulse buying and encourages socialisation away from the online buying that some now prefer. If we want people to change those online purchasing habits from COVID, then create a barrier-free, inviting environment. We are bombarded with advertising everywhere, every day. Sandwich boards are very old-fashioned, and I would like to think that we have reached a time when we can look at how to create a welcoming, open space for everyone. Access and inclusiveness are not airy-fairy ideas. They are or should be a natural part of decision-making. Why make a township beautiful and then clutter it with sandwich boards that remove the disabled and many over 65s from being able to enjoy with confidence a town centre? Please remove all the sandwich boards and make this township a real destination for everyone and not just the able-bodied. However, if it is the council's decision to retain the sandwich boards, then please keep them as outlined in your proposal. 1 sandwich board per shop, allowing 2 metres clearance from the board to the shop and against the roadside curb, which allows those using aids such as canes to navigate the footpath with some safety and confidence. I'm sure you're aware that in New Zealand, the training for those using such aids is that you stay close to the shop for safety reasons. I would also ask that signs not be allowed beside mobility parking, as this also presents a risk to those trying to get out of their vehicle. And I hope that the rules would be enforced, because the problems that have arisen in other places would indicate that there has been no enforcement. In fact, I know of one place, not the TDC, I will say, that has 2 sandwich boards, a flag, table and chairs, and a motorcycle, all on the footpath outside their shop. Personally, I avoid that area totally. It is, of course, possible that the business owner or manager is unaware of the laws of their council, but it does demonstrate what can happen when there is no follow-up. I have also provided all the statistics. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Any clarifying questions from anybody? Yes, Councillor McKenzie.
Thank you very much, through you, Chair. Thank you, Elizabeth. I'm just curious if CCS Disability Action Group has a view about the consistency of bylaws between, say, Richmond and Nelson, because your members obviously will be traversing both centres.
We don't have any official standing. However, I can tell you as the chair, with people that I have been talking to in private with disabilities, they prefer the sandwich boards gone if we could get it right through the area everywhere. It's one of the best ways to get people into a township. Everybody's suffering these days economically. The retired, we have more spending power. The younger ones, they don't have discretionary spending, but we do. So it's the over 65s who are really wanting, and we're the ones with the most disabilities. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Walker.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Thank you, Elizabeth, for your presentation, your submission. Partway through, you talked about having the 2 metres clearance. I'm just wondering what your thoughts are when it comes to not necessarily right in Richmond. So part of our district, so Tasman District Council obviously covers a wide area. There are some of our footpaths that wouldn't be 2 metres wide. What's your feel and take on those narrower paths if the ruling wasn't to remove the entire sandwich boards?
I would suggest that you ask someone in an electric wheelchair, and I can certainly arrange for that you have someone go through some of those areas where you don't have a wide footpath and try to pass them safely. We're having more and more vehicles which are not on the road, but they are on the footpaths, mobility scooters and electric wheelchairs. We've just got more and more of them and less room to move, actually.
Thank you. Anything further? Thanks, Elizabeth. Thanks so much for coming in. And we've got your written submission, of course, that we've read too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bruce. Bruce Struthers. Kaye. Actually on. Welcome, Kaye.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Kaye Halkett, and to my left is Karen Wilson. We are both, thank you, Karen. We're both members of Blind Low Vision and also the advocacy organisation Blind Citizens New Zealand. Now, can I just have a quick indication of who's where so that I know where I'm speaking to?
Sure, Kaye. I'm Chris Hill. I'm chairing, so I'm directly in front of you.
Thank you.
Yes, good morning. I'm Christine McKenzie, a councillor. So, yeah.
Thank you. There we go.
Okay, so thank you for that. Now, oh, sorry,
Good morning.
there's more.
I'm Mike Kinemos, the councillor as well.
Thank you. So 4 of you. Now I know I'm.
No, more.
You're getting a good idea. You're getting a good idea of
Walker, please.
what I can.
Captain Dwayne, I'm over here with staff, but
Good morning. I'm Councillor Walker and I'm to your right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we done?
Yes, we are.
Could I firstly just ask you to verify where the emergency exit is? Over there actually has no meaning for me.
There are 2 exits in this room. So one is behind you to your right through the doors that you came through. And the other, which will be more difficult to get to, is to your left to the windows and then along towards me, along the window wall.
Right. Thank you for that.
So,
Sorry, I don't mean to be pedantic, but this is often a feature of, well, one of the costs of blindness, you might say.
Yeah.
And speaking to my submission, I would like to talk about advertising signs on footpaths. And although the previous speaker, Elizabeth, and I have not had a conversation about our submissions, there are many consistent themes. I'm advocating as an individual rather than on behalf of an organisation, although I have spoken to people in the blind low vision community so they know what I am going to speak to you about. In my submission, I talked about the first thing we advocate for is the removal of all advertising signs on footpaths. And while the safety and trip hazard aspects are fairly obvious, the least talked about and least known aspect is the visual clutter that is created by advertising signs. Just let me explain to you what it's like for me as I navigate a footpath. As I walk along with my limited vision, something jumps into my field and I think, oh, I must have got too close to a person. So I automatically apologise to discover it's actually a rubbish bin. Now, it's okay if you laugh. We all laugh about that sort of thing. So the next thing is that I might carefully step over an obstacle on the footpath to discover it's a shadow. Then I'll go and trip over a curb. And while I don't expect anything to be done about rubbish bins, in fact, they're very useful. They're static. They're always going to be there. And as I come to know my community, I know where those static obstacles are. However, sandwich boards are a constantly changing environment. They move. Flags are the worst. They flutter around in your field of vision. Now you see me, now you don't. Now you see me, now you don't. Navigating in this sort of environment is absolutely exhausting, plays havoc on the brain. Not only the sandwich boards themselves, which are constantly and often moving, creating that changing environment, they also cast shadow, which is also creating another visual barrier. I'd like to also point out that actually people with low vision have money. They like to spend it in their community. They tend not to go on to internet shopping sites because invariably they are not accessible to screen readers. And you can't touch a product that's a picture. That's even if you can see the picture. We like to go into a shop. We like to get our hands on the product. We see with our fingers, and we like to talk to a real person. The irony is that we also like and prefer to shop on street side shops because of the straight line of travel. Kaye users and others tend to use the shop frontage by way of trekking along, maintaining a straight line of travel, as opposed to it's gone off. Oh, no, that's right, sorry. Where other clients, customers tend to walk in random areas, so it's a really difficult situation to travel in. So we like to spend our money locally, and we like to do it in street side shops. I just have one more question for all of you. Well, actually several questions, but in closing. Which businesses do you know of that have a sandwich board? Which businesses do you locate using your sandwich board? And thirdly, which town do you visit outside this area, either nationally or internationally, that you think of, and do you know whether they have sandwich boards or not? If my anecdotal research is correct, 90% of the you probably don't know, sandwich boards seem to go completely beneath the radar. They're not being used in the way that people expect. Anyone I know who wants to find a product or a business goes on the internet to locate that product or business. So please help us make it easy for people with who are blind or have low vision to spend our money locally. Thank you.
Thank you, Kaye. Councillor Dakey has a question for you.
Hi, Kaye, it's Glenn here.
Glenn.
Obviously, you've got your sandwich board issue, but also when you've got often a shop will have advertising material. Maybe they've got a sort of it's normally some of the $2 shops, etc., have advertising in their doorway, in their immediate entry, or just on the very front. Are you finding those particularly challenging? I imagine you would be, but do you have any thoughts on that? That's the immediate advertising or placement of goods just outside the shops.
Any obstacles in a pedestrian area are an issue. Now, I know if it's inside the doorway, it may be classed as being private property, but if it gets too hard, people from the blind low vision community avoid those businesses.
Thank you.
Councillor Kinnemont has a question too.
Thank you. Hey, Mike over here, Mike, the councillor. You're talking about sandwich boards, but to me, I would have thought the huge banner flags were more of a nuisance for you because they move around in the wind. Can you just how do those banner flags affect you walking along the footpaths?
Yes, in fact, I've already mentioned that the flags are by far the worst because they do flap around. They have a heavy base, which is a trip hazard, and they flap around. So they're coming and going from your visual field. And as I was saying, it's sort of now you see me, now you don't, now you see me, now you don't. And that creates havoc on the brain. It's exhausting. And I do applaud the council's attempt to change the status quo.
So, which is worse for you, or are they both as bad as one another, or is a sandwich board worse than a banner flag?
My first preference would be that there be neither. A clutter-free footpath. And while we can only, I can only advocate on behalf of the blind low vision community, Elizabeth has indicated the same sort of thoughts for other people with other disabilities.
Thank you, Kaye.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Kaye, for coming in and for writing your submission. It all goes in the mix. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Is it mine? Yep.
Mathias? Missed it. See what comes.
I'll try. I'll just open it. If I can't unlock it. Sorry.
Welcome. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm speaking on behalf of Tasman Democracy. We are a membership-based non-profit organization that advocates for the interests of the community and encourages debate, dialogue, and democratic decision-making. We are concerned about the lack of scrutiny that went into this draft public places bylaw, and as a result, we think that this bylaw is very poorly drafted. In our submission, we highlighted a number of issues. The wording of this bylaw is not specific enough, and there's too much discretion how people would be dealt with under this bylaw. We are concerned that this level of discretion will lead to arbitrary exercise of power by the Tasman District Council and in consequence to discrimination. I can give you one example. It's section 14 of your bylaw. We can read, whenever a person, the applicant, applies to the council for approval to carry out an activity that is regulated by this bylaw, the council may at its discretion grant or decline the application, quote end. Nobody knows what factors or circumstances the council will take into consideration when making a decision to grant or decline an application under this bylaw. We cannot see any defined procedure how to handle such applications. So we need to presume that this process is totally arbitrary. And if the council declines an application under this bylaw, for whatever reason, we don't know, then there's not even a requirement to give reasons and inform the applicant why the council declined an application. So we submit that this level of discretion and secrecy is not in line with the principles that council needs to follow under section 14 of the Local Government Act, which is, quote, to conduct its business in an open, transparent, and democratically accountable manner, quote end. But besides this, the biggest issue that we have with this is that it's not clear why there would be a need for this bylaw in the first place. So section 155 of the Local Government Act makes it clear what a local authority must do before commencing the process for making a bylaw. And there are three questions that council needs to answer. The first one, what is the problem that the bylaw tries to address? The second one, why is the bylaw the most appropriate way to address the problem? And third, why is this bylaw the most appropriate form of a bylaw? And if we look into your consultation paper, then we cannot find answers to these questions. This draft bylaw covers many topics like sandwich board, busking, mobile trading, outdoor dining, fundraising. But what is the problem? I mean, seriously, what is the problem that we currently have in the district that we need to address? I mean, it's all clear. You cannot just make a bylaw to get more revenue. It's not how it works, because your by Mayor Dam has a blowout of 100 million and now you need money, and that's not doable. There must be a problem identified before you start the process of making a bylaw. And it's not clear to us what the problem is. Is there a large number of incidents with mobile trading activities or sandwich boards on sideways? Or is it just one street that causes a problem? Or is there a large number of complaints about busking in public places? Or is it just one busker who is a bit of annoying and we need to take care of this one person? So, but I have to say, I hear the concerns from the other speakers that we had here today, but where's the information, right? The data that shows that we have a problem or several problems, because this bylaw covers several topics that we need to address. And then the question is, are these problems so severe that we need to make a bylaw? Because a bylaw is a pretty heavy-handed legislative instrument, I would say. We have a lot of other tools available that we could use instead of a bylaw. So, but we cannot find this information, not in your consultation document, not on your website, and surely not in a debate in a public meeting, because, well, your bylaws are made in workshops that are not open to the public. And Yeah, we all know that the Ombudsman decided workshops should be open to the public, but they are not. So in conclusion, our organization, Tasman Democracy, we oppose the adoption of this bylaw because we simply cannot see how the legislative requirement under Section 115 Local Government Act would be met with the information that you have provided to the public so far. So I'm happy to take any questions that you might have. Thank you for giving me the time.
Thank you. Councillor Kinnemont.
Thank you, Mathias, for coming along. 2 questions. In Tasman Democracy, does your membership have any disabled or blind people in your membership?
No, we don't.
And in your membership, do you have people over the age of 65?
Yes, we do.
Thank you.
Anything further? Thank you. Thanks very much. Is Abby Langford there on Zoom? I see that Kim's there. Hi, Kim. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Councillor.
Kia ora, Kim.
Kia ora.
I can't hear you, but it might be our end by the looks of things. Just wondering if you're with Abby at all and her Zoom into here is via you? No. Okay. That's all. Thanks. And I'll see you at Community Board this afternoon. Okay. Cheers. And Bruce hasn't arrived. It's not outside. No. So that concludes our submitters. Yes.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just wondering with regard, so I might just check with the officers, were the submitters, were they given 10 to 11 or 10 to 10:30? I just don't want to close if there's a chance that the other 2 submitters may come in.
They were, through the chair, they were given 10 to 10:30.
Well, we're at 10:30. You can't.
Can we just do one more check outside the door?
Sure.
Madam Chair, did you want me to try and raise Abby on the phone and see if there's an issue?
No, I think I would have got a text from her or it's here.
I did receive an email from her this morning saying that someone would be at the hearings on behalf of the Golden Bay Community Board, but I'm just not sure who might be representing.
Well, I think if there was an issue for Abby coming in, that we would have heard from her, given we know her so well. Which leaves us to close this part. And to note the deliberations, we'll have deliberations meeting on Tuesday the 15th of October, and that's scheduled for 10:30 a.m. Anything further formally from anybody? Okay, well, thank you for those who've come along and spoken, and know that your submissions have been very well read and considered, and will be informing our deliberations and what we consider on the 15th. And I'll close with a karakia. Tawhine mai ngā hua o te kai au, mai papa tuanuku e tākoto nei, kia rangi nui e tū iho nei, tūtiri whakamau te Tina hui e tae ki e. Thank you, everybody.